Hello, everyone. Once again, this is Dare to Speak, and I want to talk about a very important topic, a very important issue, depending on how you want to look at it. And this has to do with the whole idea of Black Lives Matter, the protesters, and all the chaos pertaining to it. From what I understand, it was very tragic what happened with George Floyd and the whole police brutality thing, which led to this barrage of violence, racism, and the list goes on and on. And I do admire the protesters for their nonviolence and what they tried to accomplish, which wasn't much, but it's better than nothing. It's way better than doing nothing about it, because that wouldn't happen. Trust me, if I was living in that city, I would be one of the protesters, the peaceful ones, doing something, and I would try to avoid violence or chaos or whatever as much as I can. And the thing is, it seems to me, even though I do like the title, and I understand the title of it, but I think how can I put this? I think it's better off by saying all lives matter. Respecting all races, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever, and so on. Instead of saying Black Lives Matter, it should say all lives matter. That nobody's better than somebody else, regardless of the person's race, their sexual orientation, whether they're religious or non-religious, rich or poor. It doesn't fucking matter. All lives matter. We are all equal. Nobody's better than somebody else. Nobody. Now, of course, there's unsavory people. Not just police officers that are very antagonistic towards certain people, and whether it's racist or whether social class bigotry or whatever the case may be. But there's also the typical hoodlums, people that are labeled as ghetto trash or thugs, opportunists that are when the chaos happened, they all looted all these places and started stealing stuff, and they use the excuse, well, fuck the police, just like the song, just like the rap song, and then they'll start making excuses about why they had to do it. But at the same time, they're also doing it because they're just assholes. They're just punks, lowlifes that just want to have an opportunity to steal things. So there is unsavory people that are ruining it for other ones. There are, and it doesn't. Even though most oftentimes is blacks and Hispanics more than whites, but it doesn't mean that whites are off the hook. Because there are actually white people that would do the same thing if they got the opportunity. But even though most oftentimes is blacks and Hispanics, which one causes the most trouble, blacks or Hispanics? I don't know. I can't really comment on that. It seems that blacks are more. It seems that way, but don't quote me on it because I honestly don't know. But regardless of all the bad things that happen that are happening, that has happened in the past, which leads to this curfew. And all you're really doing is giving the government more control over people. Don't give them any excuse to do something that will take away your freedom. Because if people continue to act stupid more and more, all you can do is just fuck it all up. All you're gonna do is just make the problem even worse for you. You're gonna ruin it for people who are, hardworking Americans who just want to just be happy and live their life. You're basically ruining it for them, and it's really hard to get through these people. I understand that, but even though there's unsavory people, you really shouldn't look at someone being better than the other. And even though it may seem that way, you might want to lean towards that idea every now and then. I can understand that. I had my moments of that. I was a ghetto snob when I was living in a bad neighborhood. I grew up in a neighborhood which during the late 70s there was like the Spanish Cobras, and then up into the early 80s, and then in the mid 80s to late 80s and early 90s, when I graduated from high school in 1991 in South Division, I grew up with Latin Kings. Junior Kings, JKs mostly. And I knew them, and stuff like that. So of course, I didn't care for that type of element. And people that were very ghetto and thuggish, I saw myself being better than them. Because I couldn't stand the way they live or the way or their behavior and stuff like that. So I was a little bit of a ghetto snob. I was a little bit snobby, a little bit. And of course, I had an Hispanic friend that a childhood friend that we both grew up in the same neighborhood, and we actually he was actually more of a guy who went to a private school, and even though he was Mexican, he was whitewashed. He had white friends and stuff like that. And there's the doorbell. Hang on for a second. Okay, sorry about that. Anyways, that's how it was, and a lot of what he was rubbed off on me. I was pretty much a nerd in a sense anyways. So, bottom line, what I'm trying to say is all lives matter, even though there's people that ruin it for others, and even though there's police officers that are actually big time assholes. Not all of them, but of course there's a lot of them that are some are worse than others. And I just wanted to make that message very clear. And it seems like, I don't know, to be honest with you, but I get this nagging intuition that because when the George Floyd thing happened, it caused a lot of attention, and it caused, the last thing that I remember, the last time that something like this happened was the Rodney King thing, and that got, attention, and it caused the LA riots. And I think that this one was probably either planned because they knew that it will cause an outrage from people in hopes of creating another LA riots, but not just in certain cities, but like multiple cities. And they think, and of course that happened, and they don't want it to spread throughout the nation. But I get this nagging intuition. I mean, I could be wrong, but I get this nagging intuition that was actually premeditated. So the government could have an excuse to either quarantine people, to make a strict curfew, or maybe it's some sort of test. I don't know. I mean, again, I could be wrong. I'm not trying to say that that's really what it is. I honestly don't know. But it's just, I don't know. It's like some kind of mild suspicion. But whether it is or not, it does prove that, you know, things are pretty fucked up. And you just don't want to go down that road of violence. I mean, we've been through it so many times for so many different things. And the last thing you want is for things to get more and more fucked up. And then there's going to be strict laws and very strict restrictions for us in the future. You don't want, who wants that? Nobody wants that shit. I mean, it's time to fucking grow up. Bottom line, all lives matter. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, you know, whatever. Questions or comments, you know what to do. This is Dare to Speak. And to all of you, take care.